had growing in ancient Egypt about 3000 BC. It was even found buried with the pharaohs in their tombs. Kind of weird, but sure. Then it was also found in China about 1000 BC, and now here we are today in my kitchen. I know we jumped forward really far, but that's a lot of history to remember. So, we have two different kinds of mustard seeds here that we're going to use. There are more varieties. There's white, there's pink, which my husband wouldn't let me buy. Something about pink mustard is off-putting. I disagree. But we're going to use brown mustard seeds and yellow mustard seeds. So we're going to talk about the tools. I have a blender, a mortar and pestle, and just a spoon and a bowl. There's 3 different methods we're going to go over on how to crush up your mustard seeds. But before we do that, we have to make them soft, because right now they're just little and hard, and they're just, if you try to push on it with your spoon, it's going to go popping across and might go in your eye. Nobody wants that. So, mustard ingredients, very simple for whole grain mustard. We've got apple cider vinegar, surprise, from our own pantry. We have water, our 2 mustard seeds, and salt. Really simple. The other thing I have out here is turmeric. Turmeric is an Indian spice that is used to give that bright yellow color to your mustards. Now, we're not going to use it today, but I wanted to have it out to show you that's what gives those mustards that bright yellow color. Step 1 to making our mustard, I have 6 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar from our pantry. You can also use the pineapple vinegar that we went over, and you can get a link to that recipe down below in the description. I have 4 tablespoons of filtered water. You can use bottled water. You can even use tap water if you want. We just pour that right in to the vinegar. Then, this is really complicated, guys, seriously. Pour in your brown mustard seeds. Pour in your yellow mustard seeds. Take your lid, whatever kind of lid you have. Give it a little swirl. Walk away for 6 hours to overnight so that your seeds will soften up. So I'll see you here in about 6 hours to overnight. And TV magic, my seeds are ready to use. For you all out there, that was 6 hours to overnight. I'm just going to take off my lid, set it aside. I'm not going to need it for a while. We're going to go over the 3 methods to crush up your seeds. So the first method is real simple. This is the most accessible to you. And we're just going to put some of our seeds in there. And we're going to start crushing them up. And they're going to pop. And what I'm doing it really slow because I don't want it to pop out of the jar, because even though they're softer, they can still roll out of there. So if you can see my hands kind of covering, if it pops back up, it'll hit my hand instead of my face, or, you know, my eye, or my cameraman's eye. Mad at me. Okay. So we're just going to keep crushing these up until they are a consistency that you want to use. And that consistency goes across for any of the methods that you use. Some people like a lot of these mustard seeds to stay whole, so they have more texture. I prefer mine to have very little of the whole seeds and have most of them crushed up. So you can start to see that some of them are starting to break up. The shells are separating, and that's how you kind of know. You can see these shells are starting to break off there. So I'm just going to keep going for another minute or 2, and that's really all there is to it. I took them out of the liquid because if you leave it in the liquid, it's going to make it harder to get that seed pressed against the glass or whatever material you're using. And you'll feel it start to give a little easier. You won't hear the pops, you won't feel the pops as much anymore, and that's how you know you've made some process. So that's method number 1. I'm going to set that aside. If you happen to have one of these, you know it weighs a ton. You don't want to drop it on your foot, trust me. This is a mortar and pestle. I'm going to take my spoon. I'm going to, again, take some seeds out of the liquid and just place it inside. I know you can't see inside of it yet, but give me a second and I'll show you. We're going to hold it like this, and we're going to crush it down like this. See if I can show it to you. So you can swirl it, you can crush it, whatever you got to do to get those seeds crushed down. And that is all there is to it. You can start to see some progress already because this is much harder than this spoon. For the longest time I had one of these, and it was basically a decoration on my counter because I never used it. And then one day I was like, why am I not using this thing? It's really cool. If you have recipe for garlic or something, it's great. And so you can see, let's see if I can wipe this off. If you compare the two, that's what you're looking at. So this took much less time than this. It's still a viable method to do this, especially if you don't have a blender or a mortar or pestle. But the point is that you can do it multiple ways. This is my favorite way coming up. I'm just going to take the lid off of my blender. I'm going to pour in everything except about, I don't know, there's probably a teaspoon left in here, maybe. And that's going to be for my texture. I don't want to grind those up. I'm just going to put it in here. And I apologize for your ears. I'm going to hit liquefy or puree, whichever your preference is on your consistency. It's just going to go for a minute. It's really quick. So it's really quick. At that point, I would check your texture and just take the lid off and scrape some of these seeds back down so that they fall back in, because they do get thrown up there. Now, I've tried hand mixers and other methods to do this, and honestly, this is the fastest, and I find that it gets the seeds crushed down in a way that I like. You might prefer the way that a hand mixer does it. I don't. And look, I got a mustard seed. It came up and attacked my arm. How rude. Okay, so I'm going to just do it one more time. Dump it. Okay, taking off the lid again. What I want to do now, and this is a step I normally wouldn't do, but I want to add all of this in there because I don't want to waste any of my seeds, and that'll help with the texture a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing. I probably shouldn't set that on the glass. It might not get over. Okay, just going to dump this in there as well. So we're going to make use of everything that we've got here. And then I'm going to put in my salt. This is 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I've used our pink Himalayan salt. It doesn't have any of the caking agents in it. You can use table salt, you can use kosher salt, you can use sea salt, whatever your preferences is. That's just my preference. So now that I've got that in there, I'm going to go ahead and just tap this out of there. And I'm no longer going to liquefy or purify. I'm just going to mix or stir so that it mixes all that salt in really well. And that's it. Technically, at this moment, your mustard is ready to use. If you like a stronger mustard flavor, then just let it sit in your fridge for a few days before you use it, but you can absolutely start using this mustard right away. So I'm just trying to scrape out, I don't want to waste any of this because it's delicious, so I'm just trying to scrape out all of the mustard seeds from these little crevices here. It doesn't add up to a lot, but I try not to waste as much as possible. So this, I'm going to let this part pour out into our jar. Like so. And then I'm going to carefully just scrape around the blades and get out as much as I can. And you can play with your flavors a little bit. If you find you like more brown seed or more yellow seed, you can do that. You can also make it saltier if you'd like. If you want to make a honey mustard, you can add some honey, maybe a tablespoon of honey. You can make a garlic mustard. You can make a curry mustard. Just add about a tablespoon of whatever flavor you want to add to that, you can. I think honey mustard is one of the more popular ones. And it's just a teaspoon, tablespoon, teaspoon. Really whatever your flavor preference is, that's how much you're going to add. Start little, add more. You can always add more. So here we have our mustard, and the final step is to put a lid on it. Done. So our mustard is ready to go in the fridge. That's where I store mine. That's where you should store yours. Your mustard should last about 6 months in the fridge. Mine maybe lasts a month only because we eat it. We never have leftovers, and I don't think I've ever thrown any homemade mustard away. So before I throw this in the fridge, I pre-made my label. Because as I always say, have a label. It's just masking tape and a Sharpie. Put it right on there, and you're all set. This way you know when you made it. If you don't use it as often as I do, then you want to know when you should start checking it to see if you need to toss it. Hopefully you don't. So I'm going to put it in my fridge and it's ready to go. If you liked today's episode, please click that like button. If you enjoy this sort of content, please consider subscribing to our channel. For notifications, hit the bell. As always, our recipes and ingredients are down below in the description. If you'd like to suggest some content, please do so down below in the comments. From our kitchen to yours.